Michael
Cahoon? Cahoon.
Michael Cahoon, what are you doing?
I'm an organizer of the Promise of Justice.
Right on.
Welcome and appreciation.
That's the mic to use right there.
Oh.
Hello? Oh. First off, I just want to say thank you to this group, to Justice and Beyond, and to all of you for having me here. It's really humbling, and I know you all are very committed and really justice-minded people, and it's just really a blessing to be in all of your presence. So as I said, my name is, is that louder? Do I have to speak louder? Okay. My name is Michael Cahoon. I'm an organizer with a nonprofit right around the corner, actually, on Elysian Fields, called the Promise of Justice Initiative. We focus on criminal justice reform issues, as well as we have some civil litigation projects around conditions of confinement in Louisiana's prisons and jails. Some of the things we work on are things like access to medical care in Angola. We have litigation around that. I'm not a lawyer, I'm an organizer. We also heat conditions specifically on death row, lethal injection protocol, challenging the constitutionality of that, and then conditions in the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison, which has a death rate 300% higher than the national average, mostly due to inadequate mental health care and inhumane treatment of the people being housed there. And that's a pre-trial facility. And then what I work on specifically is our death penalty repeal effort, which we are calling right now LA Repeal, which is a group of faith leaders from all different denominations, as well as community activists, civil rights folks, criminal justice reform groups like the ACLU and groups like that. And just that, I guess I'll start. I want to go fast so you can have time to listen to Jerome and Laverne, who will be much more interesting than I will be. So, just to give a little background about the death penalty in Louisiana, there have been 2 executions since the year 2000 in Louisiana. There are currently 67 people on Louisiana's death row, 73% of which are African American or Hispanic. Race is not a determinative factor in whether or not someone gets the death penalty or the death penalty is even sought. It is the determinative factor. And there are lots of reasons for that and how it's set up. There's a history, obviously, which I think can't be divorced from the present. But that's just one sort of glaring challenge we see in how the death penalty is administered and how that system is set up. And we can speak to all of those in terms of, deterrence and, if it improves public safety, how it undermines people's faith in law enforcement, how oftentimes the victims and their families, have to go through decades of appeals that bring no closure or healing, which I think is very important to me. We work a lot and are getting very involved in our leadership efforts, a lot of crime survivor and victim advocacy groups, because really, and this is the last sort of thing I'll touch on, the death penalty takes an immense amount of resources. For a very small number of people, for the past, since 2000, we have spent $155 million on our death penalty, which has yielded 2 executions, one of which was a volunteer. And to continue forward, it costs millions every year. To get to our next execution, it could well cost $250 million. And that is just resources that there are proven methods of preventing violent crime, and those resources would be better spent on those proven methods. So that's it, and I will hand it off to Laverne.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Laverne Thompson. in honor of my late husband, John Thompson, who was the 6th Louisiana death row exoneree. I'm here to share his story. Typically, my husband wasn't the last person sent out of death row. Since his exoneration in 2003, 5 other men have had their innocence discovered. On May 8, 1985, did I say his name? Okay. On May 8, 1985, John was ultimately found guilty and sentenced to death of 2 separate crimes, murder and carjacking. Over the next 14 years, John's attorneys appealed the cases numerous times, but were repeatedly denied release. By 1989, all appeals were exhausted, and an execution date was set for May. The events took a dramatic turn in April 1999, 30 days before his scheduled execution. An investigator discovered evidence that had never been disclosed. The blood stain of one of the carjacking victims. It did not match John. A prosecutor in the case admitted to intentionally suppressing evidence. When the evidence was presented to the trial judge, he granted a stay of execution. In 2002, the Louisiana 4th Circuit Court of Appeal overturned John's murder conviction and remanded the case for retrial, ruling the false robbery conviction obtained by deliberate government misconduct. On May 8, 2003, a jury acquitted John after deliberating for 35 minutes, and he was released from prison. John decided not to be bitter, but decided to help others that may have experienced what he endured. He founded a program for inmates being released from prison. That was the first exoneree-run program of its kind in the United States. John survived 7 execution dates, one scheduled the day before his youngest son graduated high school. But on October 2017, he died of a heart attack. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Laverne. My name is Jerome Morgan. Good evening, everybody. I was wrongfully convicted at the age of 17, wrongfully arrested, convicted and sentenced to die in Angola by my natural life at the age of 17 for second-degree murder that I didn't commit against a 16-year-old by the name of Clarence Landry III. So before I go into my talk, I just want to say that, I was incarcerated during the time when John was released, and not being bitter and coming up with ways to help people that were coming home in the same situation that he did. And I remember hearing about that news and being so encouraged and motivated and feeling like John was a hero because I knew that's all we needed is somebody to create something for us to go to and try to get ourselves whole again. And John would always be a hero in my life for that. So I wasn't on death row, but I did many stints in Camp J, which is a solitary confinement during my 20-year stay in Angola. After my release, I wrote this book with 2 other guys that was in Angola, which is entitled Unbreakable Resolve. And so we accounted for our lives, growing up in the city and how we were all wrongfully convicted and met each other in Angola and was able to fight for our life and be released and live out our dreams to save the youth. And so my foundation and everything I'm involved in is to straighten up the future for our youth and to hand them a life that's worth living. And so since there's going to be a continuing dialogue about such a dreadful issue of death penalty and solitary confinement, I want to refer to these literary works in which I haven't spoken much about the details of my experience in solitary confinement in this book, but there's another publication coming out, which I handed out handouts. This is going to be the cover of the book, Go to Jail, subtitle, Confronting the System of Oppression. And the reason why this is so significant is because this cover was drawn by a guy who was on solitary confinement with me during my last stint, and he committed suicide after drawing this cover. So what I would like to do is read excerpts from this book as it's being published. It hasn't been published yet, but it should be out in spring. Being published by University of California, Santa Barbara. And I worked along with this youth organization and the students at the center, in which they allowed for me to correspond with students and mentor them while I was in prison. And so, in memory and in tribute to Michael Cali Long, that's what we called him Cali because he was from Cali. He was born June 29th in 1976, and he took his life October 15, 2012, at the age of 36. I was released in 2014 at the age of 37. So I want to tell you the book is, you'll find young people and their adult allies telling stories about the ways in which they use improvisation and imagination to refuse the unlivable destinies meted out to them by the predatory policing and mass incarceration. The first excerpt, entitled Going Back to Cali by Jerome Martin. My short history of being acquainted with Mr. Michael Long, better known as Cali, is kind of chronicled here. Once Cali had taken the offer of designing the cover to this book, we discussed much about the book's content and the title, and he just took it from there. Quite a wizard of an artist, I might say. As time went on, we would become somewhat closer, but I still sensed a distance that always used to nag me when I found myself questioning why he refused to let go of the pain from the past. For the most part, I understood it to be that my half-full glass and his half-empty glass was exactly the same, but just that much different. My own low times of wondering if it would be better if I was dead than to be caged up in the pit of Angola caused me to look deep within myself to find that goodness I believe was also embedded in others. I might be far out of touch with them, or maybe right in the cell next to some, but I would never know if I didn't pay more attention to the goodness in myself, and not the fact that I'm not yet full of goodness because of my faults and misfortunes. Indeed, Cali was a good person. Yes, he committed a crime, maybe even more than one. But this one he was serving time in Angola for was a 2009 armed robbery conviction. Nobody was killed, nobody was shot. Of course, I feel sympathy for the fright the victims of the store robbery may have suffered from being held up with a gun. But if you would read the victim's statement in the case, you will find out that Cali even apologized for that. Something the court of law just overlooked, I guess, or didn't think Cali deserved any justice based on all of the specific facts. I'm just beginning to realize that maybe Cali never knew what it felt like to be treated as a human. Much like a military soldier is conditioned to not acknowledge compassion, which sometimes sends them into a similar fate. Cali grew up not having any family at all, relative or non-relative. He grew up as an infant being tossed from institution to institution, which more than likely treated his being as merely a specimen of flesh rather than a source of spirit. Somebody needs to thank God that Cali didn't decide to commit mass murder before deciding to take his own life. That's just my unprofessional opinion. Yet, this is a new experience for me. Never have I been acquainted with a person who suffered with such a fatal degree of pessimism. I never recognized it to be that severe. Cali possessed so much value as a person, not just an artist. And it's a pity that he never was able to see his true worth. He was placed in Camp J for tattooing in the dorm at Camp D a year ago. In September, he was reassigned to extended lockdown, where the most notable added privilege is being able to watch TV while still being confined to the cell for 23 hours a day. However, he was still backlogged and couldn't wait to be transferred to the reassigned location. He was eager to get back in population so he could get into the hobby shop and work on his art. My hopes were that Callie would feel a sense of accomplishment and be further encouraged by his drawing being chosen by SAC to be the cover of this book. It gives me quite a pause that today Callie is no longer living due to suicidal fate, considering the overall message and cause that gave effort to all the writing within the book's cover. Yes, the system of incarceration causes far more tragedy than it prevents. And as Callie voice speaks through this meticulous illustration, please allow me to duly say, amen. So for those who have handouts, I just want to point you to the last excerpt. Please share if you don't have one. Please share. I was only able to copy 10 of them. So please share with somebody if you have one. So I start this writing at the very bottom from at Camp J. So it should be on the second to last page. And I'm starting at the very bottom of the page at Camp J. And this excerpt is in a book from a writing called A Life Sentence in Angola. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read the part about my experience in Camp J. At Camp J, a disciplinary management area, a person is subject to being inside of a 6x9 cell for 23 hours and 45 minutes each day, and restrained with handcuffs, waist chains, and shackles each and every time he is removed from that cell, including when he is allowed the remaining 15 minutes of the day to take a shower. The shower is installed inside of another cell. It is also required that Camp J prisoners wear these restraints during all visitation, although the visits are already restricted as non-contact inside of a small room with a dizzying screen as a partition between the prisoner and his visitor. One should be able to imagine the deep sense of humiliation that imposes on both the prisoner and his visitor. For an hour of recreation, 3 times per week, the Camp J prisoner is removed from the cell and placed in a yard pen, which is 7 feet wide, 18 feet long, and 7 feet high, and closed in by wires on all sides, including the ceiling of the pen. No drinking water is made available during this period of recreation. He is not allowed to have any food items in the cell, and is only offered meals served in small portions at 7 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. daily. There is no radio, no television, no air conditioning, and only 2 wall fans at each end of the 14-cell tier. Many human beings placed under these conditions find the isolation and solitude psychologically excruciating, and often resort to meaningless arguments, foolish altercations, and intense screaming in their attempts to silence the constant threat of loneliness and boredom. Thank you.
Another part. I heard words excruciating. I heard words lonesome. I heard dehumanization and humiliation. How anybody gonna come out of a situation like that and still be human? How you stay strong in your humanity when it is being so powerfully denied to you? I took the privilege of asking that question, and the other questions will come from those who wrote one. But I'll tell you that too.
Well, thank you. The only how that I could tell you is just, I guess, the care and concerns of other people. I would have never been able to, survive that experience if, I didn't know that somebody cared. Callie didn't know that somebody cared. And it's because of his experiences from a child. I couldn't even get through to him with, offering the opportunity to be able to draw the cover of a book, and I wish he was here to see, you know, how far this book is going. So, you know, my answer to that is other people, you know.
And he really was the one that needed to speak, and I thank you, Jerome, again. The main thing I wanted to comment on that before I get into the questions, I just had an experience myself with my husband as well, just this weekend past, and I'm willing to share it with everyone. I never knew how serious the changes was in this system that we call our system for New Orleans human beings on what I seen this weekend. When it goes to the condition of the jailhouse, it's very poor. When it comes to releasing the prisoners after their family members put up commercial property bonds or paid bonds, you may go in there in 5 minutes, but you ain't coming out there till maybe 24 hours later. Another thing that a lot of us don't recognize and realize, these people are thinking while they're sleeping. They are meeting while we are partying. So we need to take this serious. And this is something else I found out at court yesterday in magistrate court. They have 2 years of statute of limitation when they turn you loose on oral or bond, that they have to come back and get you on that same charge. That never was when I was in the system like 15 years ago, maybe, or 20. Some changes are crucial. And it's crucial to minorities, and it's worse because so many of us are turning the blind eye. We're not recognizing what they're trying to do. And it's not them, we're doing it to ourselves. So this young man sharing with us, Oliver Thomas, that come here and cried with us, we feel your pain. And we're taking back our city. And I hope each and every one of y'all get serious about what's going on. If you from New Orleans, you love New Orleans, you better stand up and take it back before it's too late. And I'm giving you this warning in the spirit. This is not Sylvia speaking to you. This is the word of God speaking to you. Stop rejecting the knowledge that he's given to us, that is in Ephesians. Pay attention, people. We are the people. We make the decisions. And we have to hold each and every one of them that try to sneak these tactics into our children's lives. So if you're serious about making a difference, stand up. Please stand up. Thank y'all. This is the first one. Given Louisiana's tendency to lock up people of color for extremely long sentences in places like Angola and Gary, Tyler, like Brother Jerome, we're sentenced as teenagers. How can Justice and Beyond help you all in this endeavor?
Well, me and Justice and Beyond knew each other real well. When I came home and searching for people to come into the courts to show out, because one of the tactics that the courthouse uses, how people being there by themselves.
Yes.
And so nobody sees what goes on when you're not there. They act totally different when they see somebody in there that's not supposed to be in there. And so I didn't want to, take my opportunity and not have somebody there and have them do some other stuff that they're not supposed to do, and then I'll be crying again for more help. So I asked Justice and Beyond to come out to the courthouse. And Justice and Beyond, since that point, has been everywhere. And so just continue doing what you're doing. You all know, the help that we need as far as fighting this monster of oppression, which calls mass incarceration. We're talking about the death penalty, but it's a bigger problem that resulted into the death penalty.
Yes.
And that's the incrimination of the black community. To be frank with you, everywhere you see is images of blacks that are fearful, and they put it everywhere that somebody can see it, and so subliminally it plays in your mind, and then they put on the news as if the black people are a problem, and we quick to believe it because we see it everywhere in our media. And so, with them sneaking that in our mind, they're able to pass laws that now we're trying to fix, but, it's kind of too late, because it had unraveled into all these different laws with solitary confinement, death penalty, mandatory life sentences, dropping the age when a child could be convicted as an adult. All these are results of the same issue. And that's that, we can't come together because, one race is supposed to be bad and there's no good in it. And, for some reason, I want people to believe that about ourselves. And so that's the problem we're dealing with. It's psychological more than it is physical. And so, like I said, my time in the cell, I was able to survive that because somebody didn't look at me like that. Somebody didn't look at me because I had nothing to give that wasn't of no value. And so that's how we have to carry ourselves each and every day to deal with the issues of death penalty, solitary confinement, and mass incarceration as a whole.
I have several questions, Michael, for you. So hold the mic, Michael. Hold the mic, Michael. Let's go. Would you speak on how capital punishment is not a deterrent? Give us what studies that you have to show. There, Sean.
Sure. The first study in Louisiana on whether or not the death penalty prevented murders, prevented more violent crime, was done in 1833. So people have been asking this question for a real long time. Edward Livingston, who Livingston Parish is named after, wrote our civil code in Louisiana, investigated it, and said, no, he didn't think so. But, the studies have gotten a little bit more sophisticated in terms of the models that they use. And so it's a hard question to sort of figure out because it's not like you can take the exact same place and try with the death penalty and without at the same time. So you have to build these models. Although in states that have gotten rid of the death penalty, violent crime has actually gone down, which isn't necessarily to say that getting rid of it causes crime to go down. It just shows that there's no relation between the two things. And many of the highest crime states in the country do have the death penalty, and Louisiana among them. So I do have one quote from the Research Council of the National Academies, and they reviewed 3 decades of research, and they said that there is no evidence that capital punishment has any effect on homicide rates, and that the deterrence factor shouldn't be used as a consideration when determining whether or not to have the death penalty.
Let me just a little comment too. There's a drawing, I think it might have been made by Michelangelo or somebody like that, and it was back in when they chopped you up and tied you between horses and tore you apart and broke all your bones and pulled your guts out in front of people. There were people picking the pockets of the people watching the execution, where they could have been executed in that manner. I don't know. It didn't seem to stop. That would have terrified the heck out of me, but it didn't seem to deter me.
I want to say something too. That's what I speak. It's psychologically sick for us to be discussing, how we should end somebody's life. We should be discussing, how can they regain their life if they committed a mistake to that degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only is the death penalty illegal or inhumane, so is prison. Period. So when we get far into these conversations that we're discussing, like, should we give them life or should we give them death? First of all, we shouldn't be putting people in prison. back in the 1800s, they made a determination that prison is a symptom of a society failing. And, you can think of yourself as a parent, when your child commit a wrong, what you do? You show them love in a way of punishing them. So that would mean locking them up in a room and they can't come out. You may do that for maybe 5 minutes or so. But at some point, you're going to allow the child to come out and talk to them and tell them why, what they was doing was wrong. And give them a chance to learn that and show better. And so with us having these conversations is really sickening, because I know that the majority of black people are going to suffer that fate regardless. And so why is that? Not to discredit, information that Mike has, but I'm just saying, sitting here as a black man and with the experiences that I have been in prison and seeing how it actually works, I can see it plain as day. That we are having a discussion that they want us to have because we're not talking about any prison.
Michael, all the evidence points to the ineffectiveness of the death penalty. Why do you believe this archaic system persists, and who does it serve?
That's a hard question, and I think a lot of, just because, especially in Louisiana now, the death penalty is a tiny, tiny percentage of the system. I think as Jerome was talking to, it's even when people are really passionate about reform, there are, I don't know what the number is. I think it's over 4,000, 4,500 people serving mandatory life sentences in Angola. With no chance of getting out, no chance of, being quote unquote corrected or rehabilitated or whatever the goal of the Department of Corrections purports to be. So it's just a very small percentage. That said, it costs a lot given how small it is. So I think that it's something that's very easy to sort of fall by the wayside. And I don't think there's any use in me denying that it's a powerful symbol for a lot of people in terms of what they feel as justice. It's a powerful moral symbol that people want vengeance in some case, and that's a powerful thing to get over, even if the system is as ineffective and inhumane, and you have if there was ever an example of why you shouldn't have the death penalty, Willie Francis, a famous Louisiana case of the 16-year-old boy who was convicted and electrocuted twice because he was so small he couldn't fit in the electric chair, so they had to do it twice. That should be enough right there, but it persists, and that was 80 years ago. So 88.
It's me again. I just want to say that I don't know if you have the numbers on what's the race of the guys that go to the death row. What's the cases? Who was the victims? Because in my experience, being in Angola for 20 years, I never heard of a guy on death row that a white guy that killed a black person, as much as I hear of a black person that killed a white person. And I wanted to say that Mr. Laverne, husband, JT, Mr. Thompson, the DA that convicted him and bragged about giving him the death penalty was in the Times magazine, bragged about 4 other guys with their faces on a makeshift or their toy electric chair. And 4 of the guys in this article were declared innocent.
So just to your first point, I can just jump in whenever you want to. You're right. Even when comparing like crimes, the race of the victim makes a huge difference. And this is sort of the most striking statistic around that was the last time in Louisiana that a white person was executed for killing a black person was 1752, which was before Louisiana was a state, actually. So the race of the victim makes a huge difference in all sentencing, not just the death penalty. And to the second, yeah, the reversal rate doesn't mean exoneration rate. You know, John was exonerated. That's a different standard, but the reversal rate of death sentences in Louisiana is 85%. So since 2000, there have been 2 executions. One was a volunteer, one was a contested execution. 7 people died on death row of medical problems or suicide, and 8 people have been exonerated. So it's a challenge system.
Well, I'm going to pause for a second with the questions, because we've been hearing from the men for a while. I need to hear from this beautiful black Nubian queen. How did you survive all the torment while your husband was going through what he was going through? That's what we need to hear now.
Well, we got married after he was released. I knew him because we lived in the same area, and I heard about the story. But when he came home, he had a lot of. He was angry, but he wasn't angry enough to like hurt anybody. But his whole mindset was just on helping others. And that's what made him feel good, you know, and be able to deal with what his past, what he had been through in his past.
Just to add to that, I have to say one more thing. My husband was incarcerated this weekend, and he stopped a young man from committing suicide. He watched him take that blanket they give everyone, tied 2 knots at the top of the 2nd floor, tested it to see how strong it was, took the orange uniform off, tied a knot in the legs to tie around his neck, and my husband started screaming, "Who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him?" The lady who was in the booth that's supposed to watch everything was watching and didn't do anything to my husband's scream. It would have been another life lost. So what I'm trying to say, to make a long story short, when we put into these situations in jail, start looking for the light of God. Why you have me in this darkness, God? Show me my purpose for being in this darkness, God, because there's a purpose for everything that happens to us in this life. Whether you're white, black, Latino, whatever. There's a reason why. Mr. Calhoun, thank you, Nubian Queen. I need to ask this of you.
But I just want to say, just picking back off what you was just saying, my husband felt that way, that even though he was innocent, he felt that it was a purpose in there. And God had brought him through that part.
Amen.
To do what he came home to do, now to help others that were left behind.
One more question. When is your book going to be ready? Hello?
I know, yeah, I've been thinking about it, yeah.
We
Soon.
We here at Justice and Beyond will push you to that.
Yeah, my husband wrote a book, this book is out, Killing Time. I think it was written in 2007. Mine will be coming out soon.
Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, this is a question. It says, this is a study, I'm sorry. In 1930, William Cutter did a study which showed when governments used the death penalty, more lynchings occurred. So do anybody, have y'all read this? Y'all aware of this? Have knowledge of this?
I haven't read that study. I mean, there is a to get around the challenges with lethal injection of bringing back hangings. And I think that you know, with the history there's, and you know, if you look at a map of the hotbed areas of lynching and look at the map where the death penalty is used a lot, including Caddo Parish, which used to be a leader in both lynchings and executions. There's a correlation there, and it's awful.
Thank you. Anyone else on the panel want to say anything to that study? Okay. This is the next one. What needs to be done to help people who have been wrongfully convicted?
Rob, are you out there? Well, you know, my answer to that question will probably be the same thing to stop incarceration, mass incarceration. It starts economically, like, you know, I've spoken in a lot of different places. I'm going to use like Idaho, for instance, you know, a place called Sun Valley, Idaho. I didn't see not one black face there. So, you know, in my job to speak, I had to research their dynamics with incarceration. And so their most black populous city is Boise. And it's like second from the last minority. But the interesting thing was they had the same incarceration rate for black people, although, you know, they didn't have many there. And once I done the poverty question research, it was because of, you know, their poverty state. And so to end wrongful convictions and mass incarceration, we have to do something to our economy to allow for people to have the opportunity that won't send them into a fate of committing a crime. Won't send them into a fate of hanging with the wrong crowd or being somewhere at the wrong time. You know, and people, you know, being so quick to think that someone is trying to commit a crime. In my situation, it just was a bunch of rumors coming from high school students that got me to be included as a suspect for the crime. And so, you know, in that instance, you have to think, well, how could it have been stopped? You know, but at that time, it was 1993. You know, our city was probably the most violent city in the country. You know, we had a culture of rowdy and hype music. And so, you know, something is bound to happen under those conditions, whether wrong or right. You know, so it starts in our community. It starts, you know, as soon as we get out our door and walk to the corner and stopping wrongful convictions and mass incarceration. It's a deeper look just than looking at the problem and trying to patch it up right there. You know, you have to, you know, really do some surgery and go deep under the surface to stop all the problems that we're having in our community.
Thank you. Excuse me, everyone. Cell phones, please, on silent or vibrate. If it fits you, wear it. Excuse me. I'd like to bring up Mr. Robert Jones. He's another panelist that we're bringing on to also speak as well.
Good night. How's everybody?
Thanks for coming.
All right. Well, I mean, I came late, but I heard enough. I heard enough to see what you all are going to going ahead with this thing. First of all, my name is Robert Jones. For many of y'all who don't know my story, I mean, this is my family here, this particular organization. But for the most part, I served 23 years, 7 months, 2 days, 4 hours, 22 minutes, and 4 seconds. For a crime I did not commit. I was the age of 19. I grew up in the desired housing project and many other poor neighborhoods in this particular city. When I went to prison, when I was falsely accused, arrested, and eventually convicted. When I went to prison, I seen guys who was incarcerated for 25, 30, 40 years. And fortunate enough for me, I used those guys as a mirror to say that I wasn't going to be in that situation, right? And so what I did, I re-educated myself, got my GED, and obtained several different college courses. I became a great inmate counsel, or what they classified as jailhouse lawyer. I held forth for the rights of guys, advocated for guys inside the prison, outside the prison, and throughout the country while I was in prison. And now that I'm out, and I see how society is, and the thing that I want people to understand about wrongful convictions and mass incarceration, the same. Death penalty and life sentence is the same, right? So it's all the same. But wrongful conviction stemmed out of a mindset, right? Way back since the Reconstruction era, when a lot of the slave owners, and let's talk real talk now, right? A lot of the slave owners came up with the 13th Amendment and said, okay, only way we can keep these people enslaved if we get them convicted. A lot of those guys, those slaves back then was wrongfully convicted, right?
Yeah.
People don't like to talk about that, right? Wrongful conviction, this didn't start 20 and 30 years ago. Wrongful conviction started since the Reconstruction era. And I did my research, right? So, and it still exists right now today. I'm employed as a client advocate for the Orleans Public Defender's Office right now, and I work in the courthouse every day. And I see the same exact thing happening every day. So how we fix it? We fix it by us, like-minded people like you all are right now here, interested in this particular subject. But we have to do something about it. We have to change the laws. We have to change. It's just not the criminal justice system that's failing. It's all the resources in our society that's failing the people and forcing them or compelling them into situations, right? So, I mean, wrongful convictions is something that's dealing with a mindset. So wrongful conviction to me is a form of racism. And right now here today, it is not just talking solely black and brown people, it's talking poor people in general. Poor people in general. If you're poor and you live in this society, you fall in that category. Most definitely this black or brown. You know, you're marked. So wrongful convictions is a horrible thing, and I think that, you know, we get involved in these particular process by having these little small group settings, you know, from history tells us that it only took a few people to change the world, right? A few people came together with some ideas, some motivation, some help, and they changed the world. So, I mean, I'm glad to be here. I mean, I do a lot of work with the co-founder of our organization, Jerome, Repeal, my man JT, you know, his spirit. What JT taught us in this life, in this struggle, he taught us how to fight, right? And that's what we, as Jerome, we carry on. I mean, we kind of like, in the eyes of what we classify our enemies because they want a home, but they want to send us back. They want to send us back to prison. The DA office in particular, they classify us as enemy number one and enemy number two because we stand up for what's right. We're not associated with no political bureaucrats or no organization. We speak truth to power, right? And we are not afraid.
Amen.
We are not afraid. And this how you make change. This how you make change by coming together and start doing something.
Amen.
We got to stop talking. We got to stop having meetings just to meet, right? Let's have a meeting, set a plan, and then the next meeting is action, right? And that's how you get things done. That's how I like to operate. I don't like to meet just to meet and talk about it. I don't like sympathy. I like action.
Amen.
I like action because that's how we make change in this society. Because, I mean, as you see our country, what's happening in our country is affecting our local communities, affecting our children, affecting the way our democracy what they classify as a democracy, right? It's affecting those things, but we as a people, no matter what color we are, we have to stand together. We have to come together, man. We got to make a change. We got to start getting together. Justice and Beyond, you know, man, I love them, you know. Justice and Beyond is a large organization in my eyesight, even though it's not that in numbers, right? Because they make waves. They make waves. And I'm just glad here to support you back and Justice and Beyond. And thank y'all for having me. Thank you for calling me, Jim, because I was on my way home from work. And I said, I'm going to stop here and share some wisdom and try to learn.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. And we really appreciate everything that you all come up and share with us. And guess what? It don't stop here. We have so many entities it's like a boomerang effect in our city. So when so many of us soldiers can hop on one thing, yes. But prison, wherever you want me, if I gotta be cloned, I'm coming. So we in this to win this. Do everybody say we are here to learn and to protest and to march? Everyone?
You got it, yeah.
Show up and let's show out.
I just want to, I guess, give y'all a real view of what's going on. Like, you know, me and Robert, we was on two different charges. You know, we from the same area, New Orleans, he from the Desire Project, Train Park, but, you know, of course, you know, like minds draw near to each other, so we established a friendship while there. We used to meet up with each other and talk about how much we tired of talking. You know, about the things that we wanted to do once we got out. We put things on paper, you know, wrote it out and brainstormed with each other. A lot of people thought we were fools, thought we should be getting into things that would solidify our position there in prison because we had life sentences like me and the other guys were doing, you know, taking that faith. But, you know, we had the power to believe in a bigger faith for ourselves that created a miracle. You know what I'm saying? It amazes me every time I'm with Robert because I know we was in Angola together talking about this. And it's not too often you see guys fight their way out the way we have and still partner together and still try to fix our community.
Amen.
So I just appreciate the opportunity. I just wanted to share that with you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Cahoon, I'm sorry, Ms. Laverne, I'll come back to you. I'm really trying to push the last two questions out because our goal is to make sure everybody questions get asked before the end. So this is the next one for Mr. Cahoon. What can we as a coalition of organizations do to further the repeal of the death penalty? What can we do?
Yeah, the past 2 years we've tried to get the death penalty repealed in Baton Rouge, and we're going to try again this year. The authors of the bill is Senator Dan Claytor, who's a white Republican, used to be a prosecutor and has had a sort of awakening, I think. And then on the other side, in the House of Representatives, it's Representative Terry Landry, who was a former superintendent of the state police, and so he comes from a very law enforcement background, but he has like sort of changed his view given his experience. And so, I have sign-up forms if people want to learn about sort of how to support that effort. Last year it didn't get out of committee by 2 votes, so we're always getting a little closer. And just say that I just want to comment that so many of the people who served as inmate counsel have come back and just made incredible and inspiring changes, and I'm really happy to hear your story. I work with, I'm sure you know, Calvin Duncan and Norris Henderson. All those folks have just come and made a huge difference in the community, and it's great to hear that perspective.
Thank you so much. Brother Jerome, you mentioned racial injustice being a big part of mass incarceration. would you say the under-education and criminalizing our kids are crucial?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's all based on miseducation. I mean, a lot of us that went to schools that taught us some things that hasn't worked at all. Actually, it worked against us. And so education is the main thing. You know, we speak in a lot of schools, high schools, middle schools, and, you know, my message to the students is always get your education, because that's the one thing that nobody can take from you.
Amen.
And so, yeah, and even in the schools, they are making, like, you know, just disciplinary things out of crimes. You know, so they're starting early in the schools and criminalizing our kids. Right. I mean, well, pretty much all the schools are chartered now. The first school for us has been chartered now, and will be starting under charter next year, which is McDonald 35. So, yeah, they're getting our kids ready for prison. You know, pipeline to prison is what they call it.
Yes. Thank you. And this is another one that says, in states that have gotten rid of death penalty, how was it done? What can citizens and Justice and Beyond do to that end? Do to end that?
Yeah, there are two ways that death penalties go away in states. It's either the Supreme Court of that state overturns it, like happened in Washington earlier this year, or actually it's last year. It didn't happen the last 29 days. Or the legislature passes a repeal bill. In Louisiana, probably the most realistic way is going to be if the legislature passes a repeal bill. And I think talking to people and humanizing people and making people aware of the flaws in the system, not just in the death penalty, but in the whole system itself. Yeah, and especially humanizing, you know, folks and educating folks outside of New Orleans and Shreveport. We have a real uphill battle in some of those areas to get some folks to see the humanity of people who they don't look at, and they're suffering the same way as they would someone else.
And I just wanted to add to that, when you say humanizing, in actuality it's dehumanizing. That's what they're trying to say, strip us of everything human.
Well, you
to that effect.
he was saying humanization by talking to people, making people know that it's not something that's detached from them as a human. Like, you know, this is about the person next to you, because it can happen to them, it can happen to you.
That's right.
Right, and I mean, some people just can't see the whole picture, so I get it that you have to compartmentalize a lot of these things to people, because it's just too much, it's overwhelming to them, but this is the obvious fight for us to show out and to make this state know that we're serious about this mass incarceration thing. So whatever, you know, the public needs to do, we need to do it.
Amen.
To get this off our
on the way. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. This is another question. This is 1, 2, 3 more questions for the evening, and then we will move to the announcements. And if there's any candidates in the house, you're welcome at the time after this is over to say a few words as well. But this is the other question that say, what are the major characteristics of states practicing capital punishment and those who don't? You want me to repeat it?
No, I think I understand. Yeah. So 20 states now don't have the death penalty. 20 states, and Puerto Rico never did, and District of Columbia doesn't either. And the ones that, especially ones that use the death penalty, are Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and of course Texas is the national leader. And then when you look at it in terms of all the countries in the world, going even a bigger view, you know, the only countries that have executed more than 100 people in the past 30 years are Iran, Pakistan, China, Iraq, North Korea, and the United States. So I don't know what we have in common with those countries actually, but
okay, the next question, I'm sorry, do anyone else have anything to say to that?
I would just say all 7 states.
All 7?
Yeah, all 7 states have the same, that's what he said. I didn't want to be wrong, but I could assume that.
That's what. Okay, the next one is, how do we go forward to abolish capital punishment in Louisiana? And are the organizations and legislatures who are anti-death penalty? And did I ask that question right, whoever written this? The second question is, states, are the organizations and legislators who are anti-death penalty? Are you asking who are they?
Yeah, are there organizations that are advocates for anti-capital punishment?
Exactly. I got you, because I was about to ask that question about Walmart and different other ones that's supposed to build in the prisons that we may have to boycott.
Yeah, there are lots of organizations and churches. I think the Catholic Church opposes capital punishment. The Catholic Church and the ACLU, they probably don't agree on a lot of issues, but this is one that they do. But I think what we really need now is leaders. We need people to step up and say, this is something we care about. This is something I want to be involved in, and work with these church groups and work with these legislators. And I'm paid to talk about how I don't like the death penalty, so they're not going to listen to me all the time, but I'm happy to bring people together and unite voices and help people who want to be leaders on this issue. So.
Anyone else have a comment on that?
I think one of the things that we should do here in Louisiana in regards to that is just recently we had success. I actually sit on the committee for a unanimous jury verdict. And what I learned from that is that forming a coalition, and I was going to get to that point about economics. Much as we look at the racism that happened in this country and all the ills in our society, at the end of the day, it's always going to boil around economics. And most people think economics is predicated on finance, but economics is the resources in our society. Who control the resources in our society? That's what economics are, right? Who control the level of education that disperses to our people in our communities? Who control all these very different resources? Who control the money? Now the thing is that, you just think about it, like you just said about Walmart. And let me show you about the difference between economics. And I share this with some members of the Black Lives Movement. If you understand revolutions from the time of the 70s and the 60s, when Martin Luther King and all these other civil rights leaders was doing what they was doing with these boycotts, it wasn't that they was trying to get attention from these boycotts. It was an economical movement, right? So what you think would happen if 1 million people, you're going to say 100,000 people right here in the state of Louisiana stop going to Walmart for one day? You know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? Walmart going to go to factory, right? Walmart going to go buy the politicians, right? To make something happen. And this is the way our society is today. So, economic is the first tier of what we have to establish and get these things together, and that's how you get your politicians involved, right? I mean, technically you have to buy them.
Yes, Lord.
Rent them, lease them, however you gonna do them, in order for them to make these things happen, right? Because these lobbyists, these big lobbyists that they have on the state capitol, they're not gonna allow you to get in there just because you got 400 people standing outside state capitol with signs and the email campaign going on. That's effective, but it's not effective enough, right? You got to get the constituents on the floor to say yes. And the only way that they say yes, that's right, if they get representatives, people from their communities that giving them problems and they're thinking about their position for next year. So that's how you make change. That's real politics. It's not just, you talking, you're doing things and making a very, very effective change in our side. That's how I think that we can actually do something effective with the death penalty. I
Amen.
mean, for those, and I have studied, for those who have been successful in other states that got a repeal or got a change, they made a lot of noise. You've seen advertising all over the television. You heard it on the radios, you heard it on the podcast. You've seen people wearing shirts in different states, and it made a difference, and it made it happen. And all that costs money.
Amen. Amen.
All that costs.
Amen. With that being said, Sister Laverne, would you like the opportunity to speak again before we close? Okay.
But I just want to say, an organization that I'm associated with called Witness to Innocence. Like what Robert was saying, how it takes like people, a lot of people, mass people, that's the people to get out there and make some noise and wear T-shirts and just get out in the people's faces and things. So this is what this organization, Witness to Innocence, that's what we do. So the days that we, like every year we have, they get all our exonerees to come together, and we go to the courthouses, we go with our T-shirts, and we go making noise. I don't know about what they do with the money portion, but we go out there, and the death penalty has been abolished in certain states that we've been in.
Okay.
Because of it.
I thank you so much. And when you say represent, we do have our Sergeant at Arms, and he is modeling our beautiful Justice and Beyond T-shirts, everybody. Yes. Could you walk like a mile across the dance floor, sir? Thank you so much, Reverend Bell. Could you turn, sir? And come back this way. Thank you so much, sir. And the prices are $15 from sizes small to extra large.
I have a meeting.
Sizes 2X and up, $20. But it's all to support. We don't need nobody to give us no resources. We survivors. So if I have to cook you a plate every day to make them $10 and give you a plate and a cold drink, we got this. So thank y'all, everybody. I'm going to ask this one last question. What? I'm sorry, ma'am.
I want to make a statement, and I want you to understand.
Wait. Let me ask everybody, is that acceptable, everybody? The lady would like to make a statement by the mic. Come on, ma'am. Come on.
Okay, what it is, what I'm saying is.
Come to the front.
What I'm saying is TV, because allow all the television as well. And I was looking at a show, and this was a white college. So some of these police officers are responsible for people going to jail while they be returned. So in white college. And the little boy, they called him a weed. Now it was a white college. Okay? So what the sheriff or whoever it was demanded that he become an informant. So he had to inform on 9 people. And if he didn't inform on 9 people, then this sheriff, whoever it was threatening them. And threatening, oh, you better. So therefore, he had to set people up. This is from unsolved mysteries or something like that. He had a secret. He had to set people up. And therefore, if they asked for weed, he had to bring a coat so he could meet his quota. And some of the people he was trying to meet his quotas were in the same predicament he was in. So he decided he wanted to well. And I think it's a secret, this book of secret, mystery book. But these are true stories. And like I said, it was unsolved murder mystery. I forgot that lady's name.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was so informative. And that is so true, because what we see on TV, some things may be a myth, but it's really true. That's how they live it and act so well. But at the same time, this is the last question. Oh, you have one more? Okay. In order to potentially invite members of the panel to speak at church, how do we get contact info? Email. That's a question.
My email is jerome.morgan999@gmail.com. Robert, what's your email? Robert1120.
2015 is a debt I put. So Robert Jones, 11/20/2015 at gmail.com. So anybody can email me and contact me. When we get involved with something, form a coalition, want to share some ideas, some resources. I'm there. That's what I do. I'm open.
Thank you.
When I have time.
Mr. Morgan?
Jerome.Morgan, 999@gmail.com, or you can call me 504-715-9869. I have a barbershop at 902 North Broad Road, Gentleman Barbershop. We also have a youth mentoring organization where we have a curriculum called Real Gentleman Program, in which we help and support our children with their transition into adults.
Thank you. Ms. Laverne?
What about that bus?
So they shut down the bus, the state shut down the bus.
Ms. Laverne?
My email address is tlaverne01@yahoo.com. My phone number is 504-228-0347. My husband established an organization called Resurrection After Exoneration, and I'm in the process of reestablishing that myself. So it's at 1212 St. Bernard, so you'll be hearing more about that. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cahoon?
Yeah, my email is mcahoon@defendla.org. I have cards too. If anyone, I'll just leave them somewhere, and that has my phone number.
Okay. Thank you. One more question that needs to be asked, and then we're closing. Ms. Eloise?
Young man, first I want to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about what happened to you all. But I'm a multiple victim of homicide. I know most of my family was slaughtered in this city, and even to me, I'm standing up here today, but my spirit being murdered 24/7 because nobody wanted to hear the truth. But the truth is coming out because guess what? Well, number one, our justice system is our big racist killers. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to be standing till the day I die. You can't make me say nothing else because I'm doing it. I haven't been behind the bars, but I'm incarcerated. But you came in and destroyed my family, and you know who did it and why it was done. My thing is to ask, and I asked the system pretty much, why would y'all incarcerate a young man that you know haven't committed that act of crime? How easy it is for y'all to know whether he killed that did that act of crime, yes or no. It's easy to get DNA. It's not a hard thing to do. But when the system is the Ku Klux Klan and the Mafia, you ain't going to get justice. And I don't get justice because I speak the way I speak. I'm totally, the first time I ever speak to man, but I heard a lot because I read a lot, travel a lot, and I speak out a lot about the system. So my punishment is to for them to put their foot on me as a member of the family, like I'm a bug. No, there's a big bug here, and I ain't gonna sit down. I came here today, especially because I'm crippled, to say to the people here, you know what the justice system looking at me for? To accuse somebody wrongfully. I will get justice if I accuse a wrongful person and have them incarcerated. That's not my mentality. That's not the way I live. So, I'm going to be prosecuted here all the time. But that still don't stop me from speaking. Now, if you kill me, I'm still speaking because I got much right up. That they don't never, I got much tapes. Read them, play them, and you're going to know. And you're going to know me. That's all I'm coming to. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And We have the T-shirts up here available.
Can I say something, Ms. Louise?
Yes.
You, the spirit that you have is what keeps us fighting. You know what I'm saying? The spirit that you have, and you are not incarcerated, because you're speaking your truth, and you are not afraid, right? So you free. Nobody see people live in fear, afraid to speak the truth, and you're going to get your justice. As long as you live, as long as you have that spirit, and that spirit going to move on, because I have that same spirit, and I'm not afraid, right? So you're going to get your justice. And I tell our little guys all the time, that only way this system works is if you keep playing the game. Right? The prosecutors prosecute over 2,000 cases a year. What you think will happen if they only prosecute 200 cases a year? Somebody got to go find a job.
Amen.
Right? So it's all brought down to economics. If you understand economics, you understand how to. That's right.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much.
But I just want to let you know that you are right. You free. You ain't never incarcerated because you got the spirit to stand up.
Amen. Thank you
And
so
you're going to get
much.
your justice.
Thank you so much. We have one more.
I'm here, and I'm a member of the collaborative, and we were the ones that instituted the disparity study in the city. And I've been coming here for a couple of years. I also, Pat Bryant, a very good friend of mine, been very supportive. I'm here today, as I told Pat before this is winding down, that Dr. King used to talk about truth crushed to earth shall rise again, and no lie can live forever. We hear these things almost in unison in our contemporary society, especially in the brown and black communities where we live. But the question I want to ask, and I keep on asking when I go, whether I'm talking to the mayor or whether I'm talking to city council members, I have been here a couple of times. I have seen people come here to run for office and talk about how they're grounded in the community, how they're interested in what happens in the community, how they are willing to defend the truths and injustice in the community. And and if you come here every Monday, I do not see any of these people who are represented on stage, but they get paid a salary to represent the truths and the issues, the confrontations that you have to go through every day. So I have a question. The mayor is a good friend of mine, and I'm sure some of you here know her. How many times has she been to this particular event? So are we having people represent on the council of the city of New Orleans, the different neighborhoods we live in, but they do not have time for the people who pay the salaries here. They do not have time for the people who are taxpayers in the city to come here and lend an ear to the issues that you guys are confronting every day. Not today, not tomorrow. It's every year, and it's in resistance in unison. So we need to ask those questions. We need to know why they can't have the time to spend at least in a year to come here 4 or 5 times to say, we hear you and we're working on your behalf. So that is a question that I'm asking, that I continue to ask. And is a question that we who are in this community need to continue to ask, because when you come here, you commit a fraud when you are not representing and you've been chosen to represent a neighborhood in the city of New Orleans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question is, Jerome, where can we get your book?
For Robert Jones, or if you're not ready to purchase a book tonight, you can go on Amazon.com. Unbreakable Resolve, Triumph for Stories of Three True Gentlemen. And Robert has something with him today for a $25 donation. You have a book, and I want a shirt. And I just want to say, my position as a man is to take counsel from my elder man. It's always heart-wrenching to me to see my elder man on the front line, because that's my job, and people like me, and we don't see a lot of people in my age bracket you know, standing up with the fury of our older people. You know, they're supposed to be sitting back, kick back, giving us advice at this point in life. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I love the passion from our old people. We need to see that in our young people. We need them to understand what's going on and to go out, because the older people, their bodies are not able to take on, you know, all that we need them to take on. So, you know, if anybody has any influence with people in my age bracket, which is, you know, adult age from 30 to 45 or whatever, we need to see more presence from them.
Amen.
Thank you.